name, though it looks like I'm Chris. And Andy is here as well. Chris will be here shortly. He got stuck in traffic. So we are going to start off by talking about your final project. But before we do that, the easiest way to make this run with the least amount of interference is if you want to say something or if you have a question, if you raise your hand. If you look on the panel over on your left, you'll see a little hand there. If you want to practice raising your hand, that way nobody is talking over anybody. And if you have any questions, feel free to stop us. I am going to start with really just laying out what the project is, and then I hear Andy's got a couple of cool things to tell us about, and we are here to answer your questions. So we will, we're going to wait a minute, sending the pin, because it looks like we have other people joining us. All right, so I will bring up the project. Okay. Share. Right, creating a story map. So you guys have spent some time learning how to sort of work within GIS. And so your final project is going to be to make a journal story map. Hopefully you'll be using everything you've already learned, and maybe some of the stuff is in your autobiographical map already. So the one thing that is super important is to remember that we want you to be able to use this, so really pick a topic that you'll be able to use in your classroom. So there are 7 required slides, but before we kind of get started, there are 2 different ways you can kind of look at this. You can look at it as a story map, the traditional story map that you've looked at and that you've sort of had a chance to look at during the class. Or if you're more familiar with web quests, you can also kind of look at it sort of as a web quest kind of thing, where the side panel can really just serve as instructions for what you want your students to do. So the things that are required for your project, they have to have at least 7 sections. The sections will include at least 1 title home section, at least 5 content sections, and 1 citations and bibliography section. Yes, oh, Andy, go ahead.
Hey, I'm not seeing much on your screen. I'm just seeing a gray blotch.
All right, hold on. Thanks for telling me.
There we go.
Oh.
Well, we had it there.
Better? Or no?
No, it was for a second, but.
All right, hold on.
There's a portion of it.
I know, I don't, see, it looks fine on mine.
Go up to the little thing that looks like the pencil, or actually go to the globe thing on there and click on that and see if it allows you to share a better screen.
Scale to fit. All right, hold on. I'm looking. Oh. Why is it not letting me? All right, wait, hold on. I'm going to stop and start again. Oh, okay. Wait, there we go. Share. All right, let's try again. And all you're getting is that gray box.
I'm getting your background, which looks to be some majestic castle, and then just a gray box.
Yeah, I don't. Do you want to pull it up and I'll transfer moderator to you and maybe see if you can pull it up?
Yeah, give me a minute to do that. And,
okay.
You can keep talking through. I think everybody kind of knows, and then I'll look for it.
Okay. So, and the if you want to look along, even though you're only getting a gray box, the directions are on the Module 4 page. So each section's images media has to be appropriately cited within the section or on the citations page. That part is really important, and I know that there's been some question about with some of the people I'm working with about exactly what is in the public domain. So that's definitely something you're going to want to pay special attention to. So the GIS content, you've got to have at least 3 different elements. There's a whole bunch of elements. You only have to pick 3. You need to have a base map appropriate to your story map subject. You need to have different map extents appropriate to each slide's content, and then a variety of layers appropriate to the story map subject. So think about what story you're trying to tell and what data would best visualize that story. Appropriately symbolized layers, which include points, lines, and polygons, and then it gives you several examples, whether you want cities, battles, locations, or rivers, roads, and railroads, and then areas, states, and counties. And then spatial analysis tools utilized to help tell the story, and those could be, there's a ton of those. Map notes as annotations to the map. I'll tell you, I have found those to be the most helpful when I'm making one of those for my students, because that's really where I can attach like primary sources and stuff, or links to primary sources. The multimedia is required. That is required. You need at least 1 appropriate piece of multimedia, which is a photo, a YouTube clip, an external link per section. And again, they can be embedded into the map notes as part of the main stage or in the side panel. And then again, we come back to the copyright laws. It is a total pain, but it means that you're actually showing your kids what doing history looks like, and it allows, it makes it easier when your story map is shared with the public. And then this last part is also required, which is an appropriate narrative text within the story map to explain the content or context of your map. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, it can be instructions for kids to follow, or it can tell a historical or geographic story, or it can be both. So that's sort of like the big picture of what we're looking for. And then I'm going to hand it off to Andy, where apparently maybe his sharing will be better. Hold on, let me do this. Give control, give moderator. Yes. Okay, Andy, you are moderator away.
All right. Give me a second here. It's been
a day.
Get my page
Does
up.
anybody have any questions while we're waiting? One. Hey, welcome to the webinar. We're just waiting for Andy is going to pull up some stuff. We've just gone over the basics of the project so far, and if you have any questions, let us know.
All right, can everyone see my screen? It should just be a large YouTube video. Just someone raise their hand if they do see it. All right, so we're good to go. So I'm going to walk you guys through creating just a basic story map. And the key I tell all of my students, be they adult or middle school age students, the key to any good story map is to actually have a good map ahead of time. And one of the things I've been kind of telling some of the participants in my group is you can actually go ahead and make the map and have your students create the story map from that. What I tend to do is, that's typically how we do our first story map in my class, but then I will then have students make their own map and from there make their own story map. What I have up on my screen now is a basic, some national parks that we may want to visit in my classroom. And you can see I have just some map notes there that talk about the national park a little bit and a picture, and Christine's probably going to chastise me because these are not sourced very well. We're working on that in my class, but for this, we're just going to go with this for right now. You can also see I have a layer that's not turned on. I'm going to show you why here in a few minutes. But the easiest way to make your story map is to just go right to share. And you'll get, and this is actually my school account, so you won't have access to these groups or anything. And then go ahead and click on Create Web App. And from there, and all of these are pretty cool things that, you guys have ArcGIS accounts now. Play around with them. This map social media is pretty neat. Showcase a map, etc. But for today, we're just going to build a story map. So click on Build a Story Map. And I always like to use the story map journal. You guys are free to use whichever ones you want. I know in the discussion some people asked about how to make a story map swipe in Spyglass. It's really quite simple. If I get a chance, I'll throw a video up on our iSTEM GIS YouTube page, because it's quite literally a 5-minute activity. But so click on Story Map Journal. You want to create the web app. And you can leave the title whatever you want. I'm just going to go with National Park at this point. It'll take a second. It's actually launching you into the app. And I just select side panel. It's just easier. That just means your information's tethered over here on the side as opposed to kind of zooming in and out. Some of my students like this. I find it kind of annoying, so I advocate for the side panel. Click Start, and first thing you need to do is give your story map a title. We're going pretty basic here today. So we'll go with National Parks. And this launches you into the story map builder. And before this step 1 thing popped up, you could see that there was a main stage, which is kind of covered up, and then here is a side panel. And it asks me, which map do I want to use? This is, I'll click on that, and you can see that it's using my national park map. The issue for me, though, is I like to have a picture here on my title page, because this first screen that comes up, that's going to be your title page. And so I don't particularly like to actually use a map right there, unless I have a really good map. But right now my map is just basically pins. And so I'm going to actually use an image. So I'm going to select Image. And you can see you can take images from your Flickr account, Picasa, which I think is going away, Facebook. If I was at school right now, you would not see Facebook because we have it blocked at school. So when I'm at school and the kids ask me what this ghost box is here, I have to tell them it's Facebook. But we're just going to use a URL. And I'm going to go out and actually get a picture. And this is key. If you're using pictures that are hosted on Google, or if you're just using a Google image search, do not copy the picture from right here. Actually go all the way out to the hosted web page. You can see I'm just using it right off of Wikipedia. I'm just going to right click on this picture, and I'm going to select copy image address. Not copy image, I want the actual web hosted address. I'm going to select that. I'm going to go back to my map journal, and I'm just going to paste that in. You can mess around with these however you want it to be in or out. I'm going to click Next, and you can see it says Add Text, Links, and Small Graphics here. I'm just going to say a tour of several U.S. national parks, and that's not capital. Then we click Add, and we can see, I'm going to need to go in and kind of tweak that picture a little bit at some point, perhaps. Not a very exciting or appealing title page, but it's a basis to get you started. If I wanted to edit that, I would just click right here on this pencil. I advocate that you save frequently. If you happen to navigate off of this page, if I was to close this page right now, this all would disappear. This is not like Google Drive. It does not save automatically, so keep that in mind. I'm just going to pull this up, see if there's any. All right, we're all good. And so let's go back in and edit this title page real quick. Yeah, it's great. It's a tour of several U.S. national parks. It's not that exciting. Let's put a video in, and obviously, you would source all of this at the end. So it says, just right here, it's just as if you were working in Google Slides. Insert an image, video, or web page. Just click on that. And I want to actually use a video this time and not an image. And I'm going to go right to YouTube, and it says enter the URL of a YouTube video. So before we started, I found this YouTube video, and I'm just going to copy the video URL. All I did there was just right-click on the video, go back to my story map, and paste that in. Check it, and that's the video that's going to be there. So I want to select that. I want to hit apply. I'll hit save, and there's my video. And so that's just my title page. And this is something that your students could do within a couple of minutes. And they get pretty excited. Oh, wow, look, the video that I picked is up there. All right, so we're going to click save now. And that's great. We have our title page, right? I always advocate, if you're doing a simple story map, go title page, table of contents page, and then your map point pages. And that's kind of what I'm going to walk you through tonight. So very basic, rudimentary title page. Click on Add section. And this is where I want to use my map. And this section title is just going to be my table of contents. And the map I'm going to use for this is the full extent of my national parks map. So I make sure I select map, and I could go into any of my maps from here that are saved into my content folder. Because I started from my national park map, that's the default map. If I wanted to use one of my prior maps, I would just go in here. Or you can even create a map from this point. I will tell you though, it's much easier to create the maps ahead of time than it is to come up with a template of a story map and then backfill your maps in. Try to go ahead and make your maps, and make sure your maps are the way you want them before you start the story map. So I'm going to select National Park, and this page pops up. And this is kind of the dash panel. This is what allows you to customize your map. And so the first thing you want to set is your map location. I wish they would change this to map extent, but we're just going to have to settle with location for now. So I'm going to click on Custom Configuration. And what you should see on your screens is the map that I started with. Pay no attention to this stick pin that's slightly different. It's troubling to me, but we'll get through it. And here is my map of national parks. And I can zoom it in, I can zoom it out. I kind of want to make it look just like that, and I'm going to save that map location. And that kind of, you can see in the background there now, it kind of anchors my map right to that point. And if you look under content, that's next. Remember that layer I had on there before that was turned off. I told you that was on there for a reason. Let's say you have multiple layers on there. Sometimes you don't want to show those layers for each particular slide. So if I was to turn that on, this is just U.S. federal lands. I don't really need that. This is about national parks. It kind of goes without saying that they're federal lands. So I'm going to just select that off and turn it off. So thinking back to your Civil War maps that you guys made, perhaps you had a layer that dealt with the battles for 1861. You wouldn't necessarily need the 1862 layer on. In fact, it would actually be distracting, so you could turn that off. So we're going to turn that off, and we're going to save map content. And as I said, I have all these pins. For the purpose of the story map, those are known as pop-ups. I don't necessarily need any of those open right now, and so I'm just going to kind of leave them blank. Overview map and legend, I don't need those, but you are welcome to kind of see what those features look like. I'm actually going to show you that in the next slide. So here we go. I'm just going to make a table of contents, and I'm not going to put all of these in for everyone's sanity. Let's just say I'm going to start with Yellowstone, and I'll put one more on my table of contents. Let's go with arches. I click add, and there you can see them, okay? We'll scroll down. Like I said, it's nothing that exciting yet. Chris is going to jump in here in a little bit and perhaps show you how to hyperlink these to your map. It's a pretty neat feature. I'm going to show you here in a minute or two how to hyperlink these out to your actual web pages. And so I have a title page, I have a table of contents. Let's actually get into the the bits of the story map, if you will. So I'm going to click Add Section again. And this one's going to be Yellowstone. And here is where that custom configuration really comes into play. I'm going to click on custom configuration again, and I'm going to zoom my map into Northwest Wyoming, Montana. There's Yellowstone right there. And I want my map to be stuck right there, so I'm going to save that location. And the content, it's fine. I want to leave the national park pins open. I don't want the U.S. federal lands. So now comes, do I want my pop-up to be open? For tonight, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click Custom Configuration, and I'm going to open that pop-up up. Okay, just a picture of Yellowstone. You can see there's actually no text underneath it. I'll save that pop-up configuration. I click on Next, and Christine might want to close her eyes here for a second, but for the sake of everyone's time, I'm just going to do this tonight. When you go out to Google, they give you the little Wikipedia summary. I don't advocate you guys do this, but just for tonight, let's go ahead and do that. I just copied that, and I'm actually just going to paste that in, except it's not letting me paste it in. There it goes. And I'm just going to click Add for right now. And you can see, yes, courtesy of Wikipedia, there is my Yellowstone National Park description. So actually, let's click back onto Edit and go ahead in, and I'm going to hyperlink Yellowstone National Park. And how do I do that? I just highlight it, and this one right here, the little chain, is a link. And I just type in the web page for Yellowstone National Park, and it's nps.gov/yell. I click OK, and once I save out of that, I can see that Yellowstone National Park is highlighted. I click on that, and it takes me to the Yellowstone web page. So that, in essence, is how you set up a very basic story map. I have my students, we go through and we put about 5 of these on there. We do some hyperlinks in there. We would actually add some pictures. So you can go out to Google Images. You can find a picture of Yellowstone. Try to, obviously get pictures that are in the public domain.
Can I just throw something in there about the public domain? If you go to Wikimedia, almost everything on Wikimedia and/or Wikipedia is in the public domain, so it makes it easier to find pictures.
Absolutely. And to put the picture in, I'm just going to tab down a little bit, click on the thing that looks like a camera or a video camera. We want to insert an image, and you can see that prior to this I copied that image URL, and I'm going to paste that in. And I actually like to, underneath here you can put in a caption, so we'll just say photo. Courtesy of Wikimedia. It's not a proper citation, but it just shows you kind of how that would be done. And so now, scroll down, there's my little picture. All right. And so that, in essence, is the very basics of creating a story map. When you go up here, I think Chris is going to show you a few things in the settings. This is your edit, and when you come in, you kind of have to click on the edit to get started if you want to go back and change anything. But let's go back up to the top. You can see, once it comes up on your screen, there's my title page, and I'm going to show you the next one. This is the national park. This is the table of contents. This map is movable over here. I'm probably fragmenting all your computers right now or pixelating them. But this map is movable and searchable. But every time I come back to this page, it's going to be at that extent, because I told the map that's where I want you to be. Same thing with the Yellowstone. It's zoomed right into Yellowstone with a pop-up open. quite frankly, I don't like to have the pop-ups open. I find them distracting. It's not that tough to click on the pop-up to see it. So I tend to leave them closed, but that's certainly your call on that. So for right now, that's the basics, and within the module, the videos that we recorded, I'm pretty sure they set up the same map, which would be a national park map. I had a little bit more time when I made this, so I may go into a few more details in that. Christine?
Thanks. Chris is here, so I'm assuming he is ready to go, and I am going to, for the time being, take away Andy's privileges and give them to Chris. I am sure.
And so as we're doing that, if you have any questions, go ahead and just type them in the box, and not to distract from what Chris is doing, but Christine or I can answer them as we're going, or we'll have some question and answer time here at the end as well.
Yeah, good evening, folks. Sorry I'm a little late to join the party here. I'm going to share a Civil War story map and walk you through a few tips and tricks, and hopefully it will get you on your way. The tutorial, or there are some videos that will show you how to make this map. I'm not sure how Andy described how he does things. I know Andy and I have talked sometimes about different approaches to story mapping. You can have students just build it on the fly. I like to build a lot of my content in a Word document first and just cut and paste the information into it. And I'll even share the notes that were provided or I used to build this story map. So last week we had you make a Civil War map, and this is a simple story map based off of some of the content on that map. And so as Andy said, if you want to edit your map, you open it up from your My Content folder, and you'll see you're going to have two different maps. A key piece to remember is that you have to make a map, and then you open up a story map app. And so this application is pointing to the Civil War map that all of us made last week. And so if I want to edit the map that I've made, I just choose Edit. And you'll see that I cut and pasted in some information in here for the opening scene, and I found a Library of Congress image, and I set it and cropped it and put up a few pieces here in the text to show some things about the story map. And then when I click on the next stage, I created a stage that showed the war between the states, and I set the layer to just have on the states that seceded, and I dumped in a few questions here that I would have my students answer if they were working their way through the map. So let me go ahead and choose the Edit tab here just to show you how it's set up. So again, if you choose to edit, it will bring you in immediately to your side panel. If you want to change your map, you click on the main stage. And so to see the content, if I click on Customize the content of the map, what I really like is that you can see that the layers that I have turned on are at the bottom here. And these are all the other layers that we added to the map that we could turn on or off as needed. So that's just to show you how this is set up. And since I like what I've got here, I'm going to go ahead and choose Save. And then the next piece, I went ahead and turned on the layers to show where the capitals were. And as Andy said, this map is interactive, so if you ask these questions to students, what was the Union capital? Hopefully they know it. Maybe they don't. They can hopefully read it, but they could also click on the tab itself to get information about that data. And then the last piece to the story map is the major events. And what I wanted to show you here is how you can make the map interact with the text. So you'll see we have the map notes here. These are the same map notes that were taught to you during week 2 of how you can bulk load a lot of information and format the pop-up. So when I choose Edit, what I want to do is I want these pop-up or these map notes to interact with the text. And so if you want to make the text interactive, you'll notice here it says, well, there were over 300 battles fought in the Civil War. Click here to see a map of the battles. So if I say click here to see a map of the battles, I need to make the here interactive. So I'm going to highlight here. I'm going to click on main stage actions. Then if I move over one layer, it's going to say I want to change the main stage content. So I want to show a map of all the battles. So I'm going to go ahead and choose content, and I'm going to turn off the map notes at the top. I'm going to turn on all battles. I'm going to choose save map content. I'm going to choose apply. And I'm going to choose save. So when I now click on here, notice the map becomes interactive with the text and the battles become alive. I can also choose edit to interact with my pop-ups to interact with it. So down here it says click on the names of the events below to learn, I should say to see a primary source that influenced the Civil War. So in here I've embedded a primary source of a political cartoon of the South seceding. So I want the map pop-up in the content to interact with this text. So I highlight it. Again, I choose main stage actions. Then I choose to change my main stage content. And for this, I'm going to change the content, and I'm going to turn on the layer succession. I'm going to turn off all the battles because that's too much noise. I'm going to choose to save my map content. And now I also want the map pop-up to interact with it. So I'm going to choose custom configuration. I'm going to pop that map pop-up. I'm going to pop up the pop-up map note. I think that sounds right. I'm going to choose save the configuration. I'm going to choose apply. I'm going to choose save again. And so now notice when I click on the South secedes, the information pops up, and then if a teacher or a student wanted to click on the image, notice that it takes you out to an article, and you could have them reading a Library of Congress primary source. And so we wanted to show you just the simple tools, but then also show you how you can get a little jazzy with the interactivity of the story maps. So now that I've made these changes, and if I wanted to, I could add a pop-up for Fort Sumter and for Bull Run, but I'm also mindful of your time and your questions. And so let's go ahead and choose save to make sure it's saved. And I could close this. And if I go back to this view application, open it up, I click on the last text link or the last stage of the story map, you'll notice that the text is now interacting with the map as well. Here are the battles. If I wanted to know which battle was way out here to the west, I click on the battle note and it brings up the Battle of Sand Creek or the Sand Creek Massacre, and it gives you some information about it. I can also go back to the map and format this pop-up information to make it look a bit cleaner if I'd like. I click on the South secedes, the pop-up's interactive, or the map note's interactive, and things are guided. So as I'm sure Christine and Andy have told you, we want you to have fun with this story map, and consider it an activity that your story map that you create as a student activity, create it as a presentation tool, or just have fun and create something of interest to you or your community. And with that, Christine, I am done. So let's pass it back to you.
Okay, I've got it.
So Andy, looking at the clock, I think we should open it up for questions, and we can always share the recording of organizational accounts unless folks want to stick around.
That sounds fine.
Okay. So I guess we're opening this up to questions to all of you. Are there any questions you have about anything we've shared tonight, or how the end game will go with the course?
You can either type them in or turn your microphone on, either way. Go ahead, Margie. I believe you can talk. Can she talk, Christine?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just, where we're recording now, are you gonna put that on our Canvas page, and like as far as when we go in to set this, are there going to, I mean, like some step-by-step instructions so that when we get in the middle and have a brain fart, we can go back and look and say, wait, what are we supposed to be putting there?
Yeah, you know, Margie, that's a great question. Let me bring up the Canvas page, and I'll show you the resources.
Okay.
We have not given you completely step-by-step instructions. We have created a teacher's guide because everybody's angle of how they're going to approach the story map would be different. But I will go to the site, and you'll see there's a teacher guide that goes through all the steps of what you should have your students do. But they're very generic just because we have no idea what direction you want to go, and we don't want to influence that direction. So let me go ahead and log into the Canvas page, and I'll show you what we've got going on. Christine, can you share my page again?
I did already.
Oh, you're awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to share. It's a good question, Margie. Okay, so in Canvas, when you click on modules and you go to module 3, when you go to module 3, give me just a minute to try to work my way down here. I'm sorry, module 4, not module 3. So the resource we have available to you, this is a video discussion or that walks you through what is a map journal story map. If you'd like to revisit that, you can. I think it's about 4.5 minutes. And then here is about a 12-minute or 10-minute screencast that models how I created the Civil War map that you just saw. So if you'd like to see that built, you can watch it to get some review. And then here are tutorials that models all the tips and tricks that Andy shared this evening, how to create things that's broken down more to, rather than saying here's how the Civil War map was made, it really walks you through the pieces of the puzzle. So you'll see there are 4 of them. It very much aligns with what you saw tonight. And then you'll notice we have a discussion thread here. And this is really, we want this discussion thread to be open to everything that you've done. If you have questions about finding layers, sometimes the layers you want to find, they're there, but you're just not searching for it properly. And the 3 of us have a lot of experience looking for layers, and we'll be happy to help you with that. And let's see, I didn't see the resources. Let's go back to the assignments. Give me just a moment here.
Chris, I'm going to jump in and answer Krista's question. I think that was Krista. I don't know how many pages you asked about. How many pages are you looking for on a story map? You know, essentially, do what you think is going to work well for your class. You teach first grade. If you think the kids can do 4 or 5 pages and you want to make a 4 or 5 page story map with questions, or just to show them, you know, a particular, you know, kind of map out a piece of children's literature or something that you're working on, or something for your social studies class, whatever, you know, however long you need it to be. I think we all kind of want more than 1 page. But you don't need to get carried away and do like a 20-page story map for this. So, you know, kind of find your comfort zone, and that would be fine.
Yeah. So when you go to stop 4.3 in the module, you'll see the directions. And this shows you an example of a student-created World War II story map that looked at Easy Company, which was made famous with the Band of Brothers series, and so he mapped out a lot of different steps along the way. So you'll see the resources you have is, one is the link to the assignment page that lists the criteria. It is flexible. You'll see we have a menu of things, and we do have a minimum and we don't necessarily have a maximum. I think we said 5 to 7 slides or stages of your story map. You'll then see the story map teacher's guide marking. This is what you were asking about, the step-by-step instructions. And so when you open that up, what you'll see is just steps on how to prepare your project. We wrote this with the idea that it's not just for you as a participant, but for you as a teacher to think about how you would approach it in your classroom. So it talks about what are the steps that you and your students should take to prepare your project. Notice at step 4 it says to make sure that you have login accounts for your students, and then steps on how you can create your own school organizational account. It's not that difficult to get an account. It's not that difficult to manage. You just kind of need to know a few of the bells and whistles to go along with that. And then you work your way down to the story map procedures. And so really it's things that you've already practiced this week. Research, collect, and create the materials, the text, the images you'd like to link, and then it takes you at step 2. Go to this story map app and click on apps and choose to create a story and choose the map journal and then choose to build. And then you choose your layout and then you choose start. And so you'll see it really walks you through what Andy showed you this evening. And so Margie, it's not step by step, but it does go through the steps, and then we'll ask you. You might get stuck there for a moment or two, and if you get really stuck, just contact either the 3 of us, and we'll help you out. And some of you might invariably get stuck, and we don't want you to feel stuck, so we want to help you. And so that's how it works out. And then you'll notice there is if you'd like to use this in your class or for yourself, here is a template of how to organize information. I give this sometimes to my students to map out what they're going to do first so they can spell check it and then just cut and paste it all in. It really saves some time. And also for this year we got stuck in snow days, and so I had to cut out the map creation part, but I did have them turn in their organizational pieces and graded them on how their research was going, and we revisited the map journal building once some time opened up. But I know snow days can sometimes put a crimp in the pacing. So that's another benefit. In 4.3, you'll see that there is the map journal graphic organizer as a Word doc, so you can download that and share it with your students and use it for your own story map. And with that, those are the resources that are available to you. Are there any other questions? I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
I'm just going to jump in real quick. In that resource that Chris was just showing, he shows you a different way to launch the story map journal. That's actually from the Esri Story Maps app page. I showed you how to do it right from the map itself. Either way is fine. You'll get to the same point. I just don't want anybody to get in there and think, oh my gosh, this is completely different than what's shown in the video. So like we said, there are many different ways to kind of get to the same point.
I believe it's Christine. Christine, it is due by August 8th. We'd like to start distributing your recertification points by August 10th. So really we have a submission window from now until August 8th to work on this. Some of you, I know you've got school years starting, you've got summer vacations, so yeah, August 8th is the due date. And if you find that you're going to need it on the 9th, just let us know. We will be, hopefully everything will be in by the 10th, because we want to get to Andy Mink all of your points so that you can be recertified. And also just a reminder, by completing the story map, you will receive 25 recertification points, and you'll also receive a gift card courtesy of the Virginia Geographic Alliance to Amazon for $25 upon completion. That also requires you, though, to fill out our evaluation, because it's quite important to our funders and who have allowed us to offer this course to you. Other questions? Andy or Christine, do you have any final tips or tricks to share with people?
Not so much tips or tricks. I would just say a lot of you have been emailing me questions, and that's fine. It's actually much easier for me to check my email. But if you have a question, maybe throw it on that discussion forum as well, because odds are good that somebody else has that question, and that way we can answer them all in one shot.
I throw in, don't be afraid to ask questions. Sometimes it may feel overwhelming, and our job is really to answer the questions, and I can guarantee you whatever problem you're having, I've already had it. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And then the other thing I would say is try not to fall down the rabbit hole of getting everything perfect, but sort of have a good starting place so that you can build on it later.
And ultimately, I mean, you're making just a jazzed up PowerPoint with a map on the side. And to me, as I said earlier, the key is making sure your map is really good. It's pretty easy to fix your story map as you move along. To really make sure your map is solid before you start the story map process.
Yeah, Andy, you raise a really good point about making sure that map's right, because it's clunky or it's not clunky when you if you make changes to your map and you add new layers later. In some cases, it'll reset all of the layers that you preset to show. It doesn't always happen, but it can happen, because if you add too many layers, then the original app the box that was checked is now no longer the third layer that you're checking. So I've run into that a few times where I'm like, oh, I really should have added that map note, and I add it, and then I have to go back in and change the settings. It doesn't take too long, but it does add a little bit of work. My final tip would be to refer back to the other resources we've shared with you through this course. If you find that you've got a lot of map notes that you want to add, create a table. Download the Excel spreadsheet that we shared with you for the Civil War map notes that had 3 place marks in there, and fill it in with your own information and save it as a CSV file and bulk load it up and bulk format your map notes. So definitely try out new things and step out of your comfort zone a little bit if you have the time. Now's the time to have the support. We'll provide support at the end, of course, as well. I mean, we do have a Facebook page and so on, but right now is the time that you're going to have one-on-one support.
Yeah, and when you're picking those map topics, make it kind of easy on yourself. Get that first story map under your belt, and then go on to the real grandiose projects.
Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Well, thank you all for joining us. Andy and Christine, always good to share the Blackboard, collaborate with you. Everybody have a good night.
All right. See ya.
Take care, everyone.
Christine, if you could, just go ahead and press stop recording.